Next up, in Chapter 11 of Mastering Meditation, we'll be talking about inducing the right brain. And so, as we've been working our way through this book, a large portion of it has been dedicated to trying to identify more with the right brain processes and less with the left brain. And this first part here just kind of recaps stuff that we've gone over, honestly, many times as we've been working our way through this book. But we'll run through that really quickly, and then we'll end it off with a technique you can try to go ahead and, induce the right brain more. And so he writes, remember, it's easy. There are only three processes. 1, the low idle state of the dorsal-vagal complex. 2, bliss of the left amygdala. And 3, expansion of the right hippocampus. So how do you enter the grand expansion in which is hidden the union state of samadhi? The answer is you must induce it. So how do you do that? First, you simply set the table of HRV resonance, sitting very still, and the 4 proofs. Then you set a deeper table for the tranquil breath, freeze response, and the roll-up of consciousness. With the table set, all you need to do now is invite your special guest of the higher self. What a joy awaits you as you invite the expansiveness of the higher self. This is the inducing portion of your very deep meditative process. Okay, so now we'll get into the actual technique. And I find this technique to be extra cool because it harkens back to some ancient traditional Hawaiian meditative practices, of which I was not aware of at all until I read this book, but I do really enjoy that he likes to bring it up so often. However, there might be a typo in here. So the Hawaiian meditative practice is called hakalau, but here he writes hakalua into the third eye, so he switched around the U and the A. Not sure if that was on purpose or not, but we'll hop on in. So he writes, there is an effective technique that a yogi may use to look into his spiritual eye. Using the 2 physical eyes, he looks up very gently towards the point between his eyebrows. He fixes his gaze at this point and forgets about the physical eyes. He then gazes into eternity, requiring him to let go and surrender. This may seem to be a little bit of a riddle, about which the South Indian yogis say, look but don't look. That is, his eyes tend to focus on one point, while his attitude broadens to behold the infinite. So essentially, you want to look, keep a very wide gaze, don't focus on something too intently, and try to take in the whole visual perspective all at once. To accomplish this technique, I suggest you hack it with some hakalau, not hakalua, hakalau he writes here. First, enter your best low idle state as you sit very still in your meditation. Then open your eyes and gaze at one point in front of you, slightly above eye level, and use the prescription of hakalau to engage your peripheral vision. You're looking at one point, but you are seeing everything in the room simultaneously. Now you are inducing the right brain. Close your eyes and try to keep the same feeling of beholding everything. Try to keep the attitude of expansiveness. Open your eyes and check. Did you keep the expanded state? Induce hakalau again. Now close your eyes and keep the feeling and attitude of expansiveness. And that's basically it. So, very cool thing to try. And we're getting close to the end of the chapter and the end of the whole book. So, a few more videos to go, and then we'll wrap this whole thing up. Next up, in Chapter 11 of Mastering Meditation, we'll be going over another technique you can do to try and induce more of the right brain. And this one is called Feeling the Space. And he writes, I was reading an obscure yogic text recently, and again it kept referring to the location of the spiritual eye as being at arm's length. Suddenly I realized there was a technique there. Position your right arm all the way out to your right side. Feel the tip of your middle finger, which is the furthest point on your hand as you reach. Place your mind there. Feel that space at the tip of your finger. You can feel your finger there, so just feel what it is like in that space. Leave your mind there and relax your arm back to your side. And then you're essentially going to do this in all directions, right? So right side, left side, behind you, in front, and above. And then you essentially try to hold your mind in all those places at the same time. Notice as you hold all 5 points and you do it well, you cannot even think of a single word or thought. This occurs because you're engaging the right brain, you're engaging expansiveness. And so I tried this out a few times, played around with it a bit. I think I kind of got a glimpse of it, particularly when I was going like to the left and to the right side. As I started to put more points in there, kind of just started throwing the whole thing off. Probably got to get in there and rep it out several more times to really get a hang of it, but it's a cool little exercise. A little bit more to get through. This, of course, is another form of Hakalau, but requires both feeling and physical activity. Practice the technique again for a few more times and then go into meditation. Now imagine that you are going through all the steps again slowly. In your meditation, you are sitting very still and you don't want to break the freeze response, so just imagine you are going through each step. First, spend lots of time feeling the space at each point, then begin feeling them all together. Maybe that's what I need to do, because like this obviously works just doing one side. I can put my feeling or my mind out there, the tip of the finger. But then when I start going through more of them, it just starts throwing everything off, making it like too complicated, I guess. But perhaps I should just spend more time, really just doing one side, stay there a long time, get it nice and comfortable, try the other side. If I can do both good, do the back one. If I can do all three good, do the front one. If I can do all four good, then do the one above your head. Do you want to overload your left brain and so exclude your talking mind? Then hold more points. Now stretch the feeling of each point out further, making it bigger, expand, and feel the space. Next up, in chapter 11 of Mastering Meditation, we'll be going over our third technique to induce more of the right brain. And for this one, we'll be making use of the inherent awe-inspiringness of nature, right? And so he calls this sky gazing, but it would work just as well with like ocean gazing, star gazing, sunrise gazing, things like that, right? And so he writes, go out on your lawn, lay down, and stare up at the sky. Take it all in. Take in all of the sky, all of it at once. Hold as much blue, as many clouds as you possibly can. This, of course, is Hakalau in the sky. You can do the same exercise with the ocean. There is a little play you can notice in your own brain. As you practice gazing at the sky and feeling the expansiveness, the left hemisphere will try to re-establish itself. It will come back and try to divide up the sky or divide up the ocean into parts and labels. Watch it try to assert itself and begin to divide the whole. When it does so, gently go back to the whole. This represents the constant dance of your entire life between the two hemispheres of your brain. And then a bit more from a kind of different section, but I think it ties together pretty well. A dear Buddhist friend once told me that the great ones who have merged in oneness before us are literally in the stars above us. My left brain jumped in and said, yeah, right. But then it hit me. If I look upwards towards the stars with my right brain perspective, then I indeed am looking straight into the presence of my own higher self, who is constantly looking after me. So I thought that was a cool little part that kind of tied it all back together. Anyway, with that said, that wraps it up. Until the next video, keep your meditation practice legit.